Donald Trump continues to shake things up in Washington, D.C. as he vows to drain the swamp. Today, I have a special guest to help me go through big news stories, Sam Sorbo. Sam, thank you so much for joining me.
Great to be here with you. Thanks for having me, Stephen.
So just some background. Sam is a education freedom advocate. She's an actress. She's the author of Parents' Guide to Homeschool. She's a sought-after speaker, radio and podcast host, mother. She's also the wife of Kevin Sorbo. One of the biggest stories coming out of Trump and the Trump win is his desire to break up the Department of Education set up by President Jimmy Carter. From my perspective, this looks like a giant money operating scheme for the Democrat Party under their tutelage. Grades have dropped, literacy has dropped. Parents are being blocked from accessing tens of thousands of dollars per student. What are your thoughts on the Department of Education and Trump's desire to disband it?
So I want to expand a little bit on the things that you've noticed, the changes in our culture that have resulted from our school system at large. And part of it is the decimation of the American family. And I don't think we can discount the sort of the greater societal impacts of what really results from removing children from their parents for extended periods of time every single day or 5 days a week. And so, these are really broad implications that we're talking about. And so the federal Department of Education really shouldn't exist. It's actually against the Constitution. It's against the better interests of the American public for the federal government to be involved in education. Now, the state constitutions, I think all of them actually established a board of education, established that the state's responsibility was to educate the public. But the education that people meant when they formed these documents was to educate the citizen in moral responsibility, to create a better citizen. It was not the academic education, because they were not so naive as to think that every child should focus on higher education and getting a higher degree. No, that was never the case. It was never the intention, because a lot of people really should not go to college, and they can do very, very well for themselves without going for a higher degree. But we've been so brainwashed by the educators to believe in them, to believe in that system, to conform to their way of thinking, that we've lost sight of really sort of everything that's at stake. And so now we live in a culture, for instance, that values money more than honor, more than integrity, more than family, more than just money over everything. And so that's what we see with our government and the corruption in our government. And we're going, wow, don't these people, can't they look themselves in the mirror and say, no, I shouldn't be doing these bad things? No, because they went to public school. And in public school, you learn it's survival of the fittest. And you're just going to go and get what's coming to you. Like it's all about me, serving me, getting me my fair share or more, right? Because nobody really wants what's fair. We all want to serve ourselves. And because the government schools cater to that mentality, we have a very self-centered society now and a very self-serving government. And that is not the recipe for success for a nation.
Yeah. I learned this year, I didn't know this. I'm a parent. I've got 3 children all in school. Here in Utah, about $19,000 per student is set aside, but I don't get access to any of that. In New York, it's close to $30,000 per student, right?
Yeah.
Then Trump starts saying, hey, we want to do school vouchers, allow school choice. And all of a sudden, everybody jumps on top of that. Is that because the Democrat Party is terrified of him breaking up the Department of Education and taking away that control of a school system?
It's a good question. And I will say this, I am not for school choice. I'm about as pro school choice as I am pro choice. And what you get with the school choice programs is you get further entrenchment of government in education where it does not belong. And I'll explain that in a minute, but you're going to get single payer school. And eventually it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be more difficult to homeschool and maybe darn near impossible. And the reason I say that is they're going to make efforts to get the homeschoolers into their system somehow. And one of the ways they can do that is by saying, okay, the money follows the child. So even if you homeschool, you can tap into an ESA, or here in Florida, we have the PrEP program. So you can tap into that money. And incidentally, it's only half the money. So in the state of Florida, it's about $16,000 per student. You get 8. We're going to give you 8. What do we do with the other 8? Shh, nobody knows, right? And so we're going to give you the 8, no strings attached, right? That was the first year. The second year, a couple strings. We're going to put a couple strings on the money. And so what's going to happen is they're going to put so many strings on the money that you really won't be able to pursue the best interests of your child. And the best interests of your child are more than likely not a school environment. More than likely. I would say maybe 10% of children really thrive in a school setting because they like the competition. They like the academics, first and foremost. They like, although now schools aren't even that concerned with academics, right? The state of Oregon passed a law that said you don't need to read or do math to graduate high school. Well, if that's the case, then really what was the whole point of this endeavor, right? Because they sold us on the lie that school is all academics. And so now as faith people, we're sitting on the sidelines going, hey, why aren't you teaching academics? No, it's always about doctrine. They told us, get your Christian doctrine out of the schools. That Bible, that doesn't belong in school. School is not about doctrine. School is academic. Now they've replaced all the academics with pure doctrine. It's not our doctrine, it's their doctrine. And school is the church of government. It's the church of their doctrine, which is socialism, basically. It's the worship of government over God. And that's what we're left with. So you got 3 kids in school, I'd say take them out of school. Take them out yesterday. Don't wait till tomorrow. Take them out. I'm not sure what they're doing in school because you really have to weigh what they're learning in school as opposed to what they can learn from you. And what I tell parents is, I ask the simple question, are you smarter than your child's teacher? And most parents do think, yeah, they're kind of smarter than their child's teacher. They don't really know what the teacher does. But a teacher of, 5th grade might know a bunch of facts about, I don't know, feudalism in, England. But really, you think that person is better at equipping your child for real life than you are? I doubt it. And that's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about equipping children to be adults. Now, children want to be adults. They want to do what daddy does. They want to do what mommy does. They want to cook. They want to clean. They want to do the things that you do. You think it's silly because they don't really want to clean, but they do actually. They want to be just like you. But you say, no, don't be just like me. Trust the school. There's your teacher. She's going to tell you what you need to know. Don't trust me. I don't know what you need to know. Yes, you do. But you went to school. And so in school, you were taught, you don't know anything. It's this bait and switch. It's like you get an A for this. You're a complete loser on every other subject, but this 1 or 2 subjects that you excelled in, right? And then the rest of your life, you feel wholly inadequate to anything that you didn't earn the grade for. But the smart people figured it out, and they go through school and they go, these people know nothing. I'm not listening to them. And then they go on their own and they start a business and they become hugely successful. And you go, how did you do it? And they go, well, I dropped out of school and I'm dyslexic and, this and that and the other thing. And I just put in hard work. Yeah, that's all it takes. You just got to work hard and move ahead. It's funny. The whole system is rigged at this point. So more power to Trump, shut down the DOE. Yes. And also I'm very interested to see where his plan because he loves school choice. I still have to talk to him about that. But he has a plan for a tax credit. Now, a tax credit I might be able to get behind. As long as there are no strings attached, I might be able to get behind that because two things. It encourages families to have children, and that's excellent. We want families. We want American families to have children. I don't believe we've reached the tipping point where we are more hateful of ourselves than we love ourselves. And I'm hoping that it encourages families to pull their children out of a system that teaches them to hate America, which is what the system does. It teaches them two things: hate America and rely on government, which is so antithetical to what America stands for and what it was founded for. And by the way, the very tenets that made America the most prosperous nation in the entire world, the most giving nation in the entire world in history. So,
yeah, man, I'm over here kind of blown away by what you just said, because it gave me a paradigm shift right in the middle of this interview where we start out with Judeo-Christian doctrine. Then they move to academics. They remove that. Then they move to Marxist doctrine and then remove academics. And what are we left with? Gender ideology. We're left with critical race theory. We're left with government dependence. And then they start changing where suddenly, I think up in Oregon, they start saying that math is racist.
Yep.
Like, how is 2 + 2 4 racist? It made no sense to me. So that's really interesting, the way that they've pulled those out. I remember one of the first times I had this like during an interview was I said to somebody, I can't remember who it was, but I said, up in parts of like Baltimore, Democrats have been controlling Baltimore for 70 years, and yet 90% of some of the areas can't even read. And I said, why wouldn't they demand that those education numbers improve? And they said, they don't care about the students and their education. They only care about power. And it was the first time that I was like, oh my gosh, like literally our children are being left behind, right? We've forgotten the George W. Bush, No Child Left Behind.
Yeah.
They're leaving them all behind.
No, it's worse than that. I'm not going to contradict you. What I mean to say is it's worse than that. So they are actively damaging children. It is child abuse. I consider school at this point child abuse. You'll have to show me a school that is not abusive, because I have yet to see one. And I take it all the way down to the granular level. When you train a child to sit still, and that child is under the age of 8, and the child has to raise his hand to ask permission to ask a question, I consider that abusive. I don't think that is the proper way for adults to treat children. I understand they have to train the child to raise his hand because they have 30 children to take care of. But that is not the way that it should work. Children should have their parents, and their parents should be long-suffering and entertaining of all questions. Doesn't mean the parents have to answer every question, but you don't discourage a child from learning. And that's what raising your hand to ask a question does. So it's anti-educational. It's anti-learning, which is anti-child, because what's a child's number one job? Job number one: learn everything you can all the time. And what they do is the school puts barriers up to learning, and it actually discourages learning, so that by the time you graduate high school, and I know because I was this student, I was a good student, okay? But by the time I graduated high school, I never wanted to crack another book again. I hated reading. I hated all the homework. It was awful. And that's a horrible place to be, because by the time you finish high school, you really haven't learned anything. You know nothing of the world or how it works. Why? Because they don't teach you that. And that's what I'm advocating for parents to start doing. your knowledge about how to get along in the world is invaluable. And we shouldn't discount it as you have nothing to share with your children. You have nothing to teach them. You have so much to teach them. And so even if we just left it there and you showed your child how to learn and set them free to learn whatever they want within reason, obviously you have to put guardrails on for young kids with the internet and everything, obviously. But if your job as a parent is to stoke the embers of curiosity, or the fire of curiosity that burns within the child, not to put it out, not to tell them to sit down and shut up, is to stoke that curiosity and to show them how to satisfy that curiosity. Because we all know when you satisfy curiosity, more curiosity comes along, right? And so you show them how to satisfy that yearning for learning that they have, and eventually they learn how to learn, and then they're just autodidactics. They're autodidacts, I should say. So they self-teach everything that they want. And the stuff that they don't want, my gosh, why would you force that? That's like saying, okay, you hate broccoli. Well, I'm going to make you eat this broccoli. But if you don't like broccoli, why would I do that to you? It's good for you. Yeah, but not if you hate it. Then you're just going to hate me. And that's what happens. It's a whole paradigm in the schools that is not good for the child. It's not good for the parent, because when the child finally figures out, oh, the school's lying to me. And they do, because they're clever. So they know when they're being given busy work. They know when this is just dumb, Dad. Why do I have to do this? Right? Unfortunately, it comes back on the parent, because the parents are the ones that send the child to school. And the parents are the ones that are stuck saying, well, okay, I guess it is stupid, but you still have to do it because you got to get the grade. And the child eventually figures out, man, my parents are dumb, because they think that this stuff is important, and I can tell. And I'm a kid and I can tell this stuff isn't important. You see where I'm going with this? It's all a perversion. And so it perverts then the parent-child relationship. And that's why we've lost our families. We have a complete breakdown of the family. People valuing money over honor. So they'll get divorced like that because, well, why not? The greener pastures. It used to be that when you made a commitment, you meant it, and you fought for it, and you fought through some stuff, but you emerged on the other side with your honor intact, with your integrity intact. And now it's like, honor schmonor. If I can get out of this divorce without paying too much alimony, it'll be fine, or without whatever, and that's too bad. And the other lie, kids are resilient. Kids are resilient. That's a big lie. That lie is only meant to justify adults being selfish. Very sad.
Yeah. Let me put something on the screen here, Sam. I saw this morning, and it made me think, my gosh, this new administration is very, very pro-family, very pro-children. Trump, 5 children, Vance, 3 children, RFK Jr., 7, Hegseth, 7, Marco Rubio, 4, Elon Musk, 12, Duffy, 9, Ratcliffe, 4, on and on and on. I have to imagine this is going to help the Trump administration see policy through the lens of a parent, where you have somebody like AOC who literally can't fathom what it's like to have a child or be a mother. What are your thoughts on this administration being so heavily family focused?
It's such a good question. I don't know that they're family focused. I know that Trump is very much a family man. I know that Elon values children above a lot of other stuff. I'm not sure what that's going to translate to in terms of policy. It's better than them all being barren, that's for sure. So I think it bodes well for the family. But we need a cultural paradigm shift as to how we see ourselves as Americans. Our culture today hates children. We abort them and brag about it. We mutilate them with gender surgery and call it science. We traffic them. This past administration trafficked close to 300,000 children at last count, and that's just the ones that we know about. We hide the evidence. Has anybody seen the list, the Epstein list? What about P. Diddy? I don't know what he was up to, but probably wasn't very good. And nobody's getting to the bottom of any of that. And so there's a war on children, and it's being waged in our schools too, because they're lying to children in our schools. They're lying about where they came from. They're lying about their value. When you teach a child that they are a series of accidents of nature, haphazard, they have no purpose in life because science, survival of the fittest because science, and then at the same time you say, oh, but no bullying, which literally that's what survival of the fittest is. So that's child abuse, to tell a child the rule of law is survival of the fittest, but also not survival of the fittest. Like, what are you doing to these kids? And so we need a shift where we reprioritize, because as adults, our priorities ought to be first to our children before anything else. Marriage, right up there. But children are job number one. And that is because if you can sacrifice for your children, it's the greatest thing you can do with your life. You will fulfill a deep-seated desire that I believe God puts in each one of us. And it's the greatest thing that you can do for yourself is to sacrifice for your children. But culture tells us, don't sacrifice for your children. You keep your job, you hire a nanny full-time, 2 if you need to, because you got to work long hours to get ahead, because money is job number one, right? Money above everything. And it shouldn't be that way. And we really need to take a step back and think more closely about that. And I don't know anybody else who's saying this. Have you heard this message before? Because I haven't. And I'm trying to wake people up because it would create so much healing in our culture. I gave a talk similar to this at an event, and I had a woman stand up and say that she felt so bad for having subjected her daughter to school. And I can't remember what the story was, but for instance, I was talking to somebody the other day, and his niece, I think it was his niece, is struggling with math, and she goes to a really good school, a good, air quotes, public school. But they can't teach her math because children learn math differently. And teachers only teach math the one way that they know how to teach. And so they are giving the girl math tutorage. Tutelage is the right word. That's awful. And you go, why is it awful? Well, one, it tells her she's stupid because she needs a math tutor. And she's not. But guaranteed she's not, because she gets good grades and everything else. So she's not stupid. She's just not being taught math properly. And the math teacher is leaving her behind. So they get her a tutor, which further cements in her how stupid she is, which is terrible. It's a terrible message to learn. But then what if the tutor's not able to teach her math? And here's the thing. Well, what's the solution, Sam? She needs to know math to graduate. Yeah, but she doesn't need to graduate. She doesn't need school. She doesn't need school. Oh, how can you say that? Yeah, I know. The brainwashing has worn off. I no longer believe that school is the ultimate necessity to succeed in life. It's not, and it never was. But they've convinced us school is the most important thing. School is the most natural thing. Guess what? School is a grand experiment. We haven't had schools for more than 150 years. We got our first high school in the late 1800s. Our first high school in the United States. School is the experiment. Not school. We did not school or homeschool or self-teaching or whatever. We did that for millennia. We did that, and that created the knowledge base for the founders to make the US of A all by themselves. And they didn't go to school to learn how to do it. What school does is it puts a cap on the student. It limits creativity. It kills curiosity. And that's why you've got Harvard and Yale and Princeton, the big Ivy League schools, many schools are out there actively recruiting homeschooled students, because the homeschoolers are the outside the box thinkers now. They're the creative types, because they didn't go into a classroom every day and be browbeaten into repeating everything that the teacher tells them, instead of doing their own research and doing their own thought.
Let me get your thoughts on an international story, because I have children that are coming up into military age. You have children that are in military age. Another thing that Trump wants to do is end this Russia-Ukraine war.
Yeah.
He's had private conversations with Putin. He's had private conversation with Zelensky. He had a private conversation with Joe Biden for over 2 hours at the White House. And then Biden.
Well, to be fair, we didn't know if Biden was awake for that, because it was during his nap time.
Now Biden has told Ukraine, go ahead and attack Moscow, go ahead and attack St. Petersburg. And they did. Now Russia's updating their war doctrine to allow for nuclear attacks. Like, how stupid are these people? They've literally said, before Trump takes office, we're going to give every available tax dollar to Ukraine. And then out of the other side of their mouth, they're saying, attack Russia. Are they trying to end the Biden administration with dragging us into war? No,
I think a couple of things. When you send all the money, despite the popular and the electoral college vote in favor of a man who would not send the money, you are trying to undermine the will of the American people. Right? The American people voted for the guy who said, let's end the war, let's not continue the war, let's question the funding, let's not just send funding, right? So then that makes you think, okay, so what's in the funding? Like, why are they so hell-bent to send money over to Ukraine when there's absolutely no strategy for winning? There's zero strategy to win. Oh, it's because it's a money laundering system and they're all getting rich off of it somehow. There's no doubt in my mind that they're paid players. And then you have to say, and this is what's exciting, as long as Trump can take office and we get Doge and we get some of these other people in office, the people who are acting irrationally now, or we say irrationally because it seems crazy to us, but they're acting you can't say that people just act crazy. You have to figure out what their motives are. And they have motives, because people don't just act crazy. There's always, unless they're really certifiable, and that's not what this is. These people are acting due to their own motivations. So what are those motivations? Well, for some reason, they think that money to Ukraine is good and it's good for them. And they think it's good for them, despite the American people who put them in the position that they're in, saying that's not what we want. So it must be very good for them on a personal level that they're risking their jobs to do this. Does that make sense?
Well, now you got me thinking, are they risking their job, or are they setting up their next job by getting money to the military industrial complex? Because that's one of the big problems of Washington, D.C. They leave the D.C. job, they go work for big pharma, big food, the military space. I wonder if they're actually setting up their next job.
Right. Which is a great, right? So, and we can just leave that there because we won't have the answer, but absolutely. That's part of this, right? They're making a final statement because maybe they know their days are numbered. And so they know they're going to have to transition somewhere else. And then the other thing is they are actively provoking World War III. And why would they do that? Well, there's got to be a win in it for them somewhere. So maybe just leaving Trump with a bigger mess. Maybe by the time we get to the inauguration, they will claim we are a nation at war. We can't inaugurate a new president right now. We have to stay the course. I don't know. Like, maybe there's some behind the scenes thing that they're planning to do to discredit or dismantle Trump somehow. using this escalation. And that's about the limits of my geopolitical expertise there. So I'm talking out the wrong side of my mouth now. But there's definitely something afoot. And this is what this is kind of what I want to focus on. When you see something that grabs your attention, you go, you have to ask the questions to get to the root. And a lot of times we don't ask those questions because we weren't taught how to do that in school. In fact, we were taught not to do that. We were taught the teacher tells you what is what. You believe the teacher, right? So just regurgitate that stuff for the exam and you're done. And I really want people to start thinking and questioning. Like you said, it's crazy that these guys are doing this. Why are they so crazy? And I point us back to, we have to ask the question, not it's crazy, but it's systemic. There's something at foot here that we have to uncover. And once we really start doing that, and I'm hopeful that the new administration will be able to do that even more, because I have limited resources. Obviously, I don't know all the different things at play, but I've long said that Ukraine, look, the Hunter Biden relationship with Ukraine Burisma, the fact that his dad said to Ukraine, you've got to fire the guy who's investigating Burisma, virtually because my son sits on the board, so I don't want that. And then we'll give you the money that we're going to give you. When you put power like that, the power to pay $1 billion or whatever it was, or not, in the hands of a single corrupt individual, and I say corrupt because I have no proof that he's not corrupt. That's a tremendous, to somebody who doesn't have a moral compass. And clearly he doesn't have a moral compass because he claims to be Roman Catholic, but he supports abortion. So there's that just blows up the moral compass. What do you expect? And that's what we got. And it's our money.
Yeah. All right. So it's pretty obvious you are a huge advocate for homeschool. You have a book out, Parents Guide to Homeschool. Tell my audience about that book.
Oh, and I have it right here. So I can show you. Parents Guide to Homeschool. It's kind of fun because it's a workbook. I don't know if you can see sort of a bunch of fill in the blanks and a bunch of writing. And it's pretty, which I like. And it's short. What it does is it's intended to detach you from the school industrial complex, to get you to think deeper about the purpose for your life, for your family, for your kids, your goals and aspirations. I think in our culture now, we get to, the midlife crisis. So the midlife crisis, I think, is really engendered by our schools. It's a setup because the school says, go earn money. You need to earn money. And the best way to do that is to go spend a bunch of money on college and get a degree. And then that will get you a career. And then you'll have more money. And you'll have enough money to pay back the degree, by the way. And so people go on this path and they follow all the rules because we're trained in school, follow the rules, right? The factory schools train in obedience. We follow the rules and we get to 50 or 60. And maybe we've made a ton of money, but we're not happy because nobody told us that our lives had purpose. They told us our purpose was money, and money doesn't satisfy. Money does nothing to satisfy. And even the things that you can buy with money don't really satisfy. What satisfies is relationship. Being a good person, doing good things for other people. And allowing other people to do good things for you. It's relationship. It's all of that interaction. And so we get to 50 or 60 and we're like, I'm not really happy. Like I've made money, I have a nice house, I have a nice car. And so what do we do? Midlife crisis. We get a Ferrari. We trade in for a better looking pool boy. Right? There's all these things, but we never reach that nugget of, well, then what is my life really about? What is it worth? And by the way, part of it is our children go to school. So then we don't have that relationship with our kids. And so then we have a kid who's going to be transgender. And we're like, how did that happen? I don't understand. And now I have no relationship with my kid because that's crazy. And I can't support that. Or if I do support it, I'm not happy about it. And so there it is again, I'm not happy. So you get that. Or the flip side, you don't make the money. In which case you're like, well, I just didn't make the money. So no wonder I'm not happy, which is also the wrong way, right? Because even if you don't have money, you can still achieve happiness. Happiness is, so Aristotle defined happiness as, it's like you have purpose. You have purpose and you don't really know what it is. And then when you figure out your purpose and you start fulfilling your purpose, it sort of locks in. That's happiness. When you are fulfilling the purpose that you have. And nobody knows your purpose but you. But your parents are there to try to help you because they love you uncover your purpose. And it's a hard thing to do because nobody's taught us this, and we've all gone to school, and our parents went to school, and their parents went to school. And so we're at this point a very, very much unparented culture, which is very sad because we've lost tremendous generational knowledge. Generational knowledge has just been decimated by pharma, right? Because now if you have a headache, take 2 aspirin, call the doctor. But it used to be if you had a headache, great grandma would steep some tea. Those days are gone. We're going to get back to them. We are slowly getting back to them a little bit. But we've lost a lot of that generational knowledge, and we've lost the ability to parent. But the great thing is, because I want to leave on a hopeful note. I don't know how much more time we have, but to share the most hopeful part of this is we can turn this around in a generation, and we can start with you. Like, I'm talking to your audience now. It can start with you. All you have to do is keep your kids home from school and start teaching them how to be adults, and throw in some academics because it's good. It's good to know some academics, but don't get too hung up on how they learn the academics. When you throw in the academics, give them the Benjamin Franklin biography, give them Teddy Roosevelt's biography, give them biographies of people who have really lived lives. Benjamin Franklin's life is so outstanding and inspirational. He came from nothing, and he had no schooling except he got a little bit from his older brother, I think. And then he was indentured to his older brother, but he hated working with his older brother. And so he ran away. And he ran from Boston, he ran to Philadelphia, and he set up shop. He started helping out, and he started working for a printer, and then he set up as his own printer, and he started writing, and he didn't know how to write. So he started reading to teach himself how to write, because that's how we learn. We teach ourselves. And then he went from that to, he was very interested. So he was writing political pieces. Then he became politically involved. I can't go through the whole thing, but he became an inventor. And he invented, as we know, he figured out how to capture lightning and capture electricity with lightning. And that was, he was the Michael Jackson, but he was bigger than Michael Jackson. He was bigger than Elon Musk, strangely. He was bigger than Elon Musk because nobody had done it before. At least Elon had Benjamin Franklin to look back to. And Benjamin Franklin is the only one who signed all 4 of our original founding documents. He became a diplomat. He lived in France. His life is so astounding, and we don't teach it to the kids. What do we teach them about Benjamin Franklin? We teach them that he was a deist, something that he claimed when he was 15 and quickly disavowed within weeks. And that's what we teach children in school, a lie.
Well, and you said earlier, we get focused on life is about money, right? So the only thing these kids know is it's all about the Benjamins, baby. Like, Ben Franklin means money. This has been a great conversation. I want to put a direct link to your book down below so people can check it out. If people want to follow you online, Sam, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yes, so go to sorbostudios.com and do sign up for the newsletter because it's how we stay in touch. Social media is great. You can find me on social media. You can find Kevin on social media. And it's great to stay abreast of sort of what's happening in the world. But if you really want the the information about what we're doing and my books. And by the way, people should go also to Locals, and I have a coupon code for them. If they just enter Freedom when they sign up for Locals, they can get a 3-month subscription for free. It's a free space where we exchange ideas about homeschooling and education and things like that. And so I invite people to come and join me there, because homeschooling is only hard because of what the educators have told you to do. And so I say, if you're homeschooling, if homeschooling is hard, you're doing it wrong. It should be fun and it should be easy. Now, there's also a lie in the culture that parenting is hard. And I rebut that. I just, if it's hard, you're doing it wrong. You're the parent. You have all the authority. You don't need anyone's permission. So if you're not large and in charge in a nice way in your own home, that's of your own making, and you can fix that. And you can fix it really easily. You just need some tools, which you didn't get because you weren't parented because you went to school, right? So all of these things we can shift and fix very quickly. Oh, and then lastly, we have a trip to Washington, D.C. for families. So children of all ages are welcome. I'm leading a tour. I'm very excited. We'll go to Mount Vernon. We'll go to the Spy Museum because that was a lot of fun for my kids when I took them, and the Smithsonian and Ford's Theater, and we'll see the room where Lincoln was shot, and just all the best sites, the memorials also. And I don't know if you don't. You said that you haven't been to DC, but DC just got a brand new memorial for World War I. It never had a World War I memorial. And now it does. And so we'll visit that also because it's spectacular. So if you want to go to on the trip, the field trip, the trip to DC, you can sign up at sorbostudios.com also. Okay,
great. I'll put that direct link. You guys, you and Kevin have some great movies that you guys have made. You have some great movies that are coming out very soon. So people can also check that out on Sorbo Studio. Well, I'm going to put those direct links down below. Sam, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Oh, and Sorbo Studios is also a great place for Christmas gifts.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.